If you knew that your ancestors went through war, went through famine, went through struggle, went through poverty, went through war, they suffered, they also sacrificed. There's you right now living in the house that you live, living in the room that you live, having the resources that you have, having money come to you every 2 weeks from you just working casually, have access to services, to have the government be on your side, especially if you're a woman or a child or a student. The abundance of resources and organization that one has to be living in a Western country. I can't fathom that shit. Like, I don't know what to say. I just can't deep it, you know? This is why I personally believe you need to run a strict program. You need to look I don't like swearing, but you know what I'm trying to say. You need to look you need to lock in like it's nobody's business. 2 days ago, I was like very interested about my dad's upbringing, you know what I'm trying to say? Because my dad is low-key nonchalant. He doesn't be telling me shit. So I knew that he had to move from his birth country to a neighboring country because there a war broke out. And I watched the documentary in bits and pieces of the situation that happened, how a lot of Eritreans had to flee from Eritrea to either Sudan, or they had to go to Yemen or Saudi Arabia, or whatever the case is, just like countries around, because of the Ethiopian and Eritrean war that was going on. Okay? And it made me realize, like, damn, this guy has so much wisdom and so much experiences that he took in from his early childhood that I could never, my siblings can never say we've been through that, or we have the ability to even understand. Like, someone can tell you a story at the end of the day, but if you haven't lived it yourself, you will never know the ins and out, the emotional weight that things could have on you, especially when it comes to the experience of you experiencing certain situations, certain predicaments. Like, I can tell you, like, I went outside, a dog bit my leg. You can be like, oh damn, that's crazy, and you can move on your own merry way and not deep it, or like not think much about it. But me, who just got bit by a dog, I might know how it felt. I might, like, everything could have just been so heightened, or whatever the case is, but for you, it's just a regular story. Do you know what I mean? This is why I personally believe people sleep on experiences. Everyone has experiences, and I feel like my dad's experiences, it's one of those things where, like, it will never repeat, and it's one for the books. I honestly feel like it's one for the book. There's almost also this unspoken tension, or like an elephant in the room of, like, you've been through so much, but you don't talk about it. And this also made me realize, like, not trying to be deep or anything, it made me realize, like, how sometimes your parents could go through the most utter fuckery or the most crazy experiences that you yourself would never go through, not even a tad, not even 1%, not even 0.0035992%. But I don't think people understand the privilege of being born in a timeline that serves you, because 9 times out of 10, like, God could have made you be born in any different timeline, in a different reality, in a different country, in a different this. God could have given you such a different circumstance where, like, you're thinking, this one's for the books. Like, let me just wrap it up. Let me just be another statistic and call it a day. I'm so privileged, and I overlook the current life that I have because I treat it like it's a regular Tuesday. The whole time, people would dream to be in your predicament. Your ancestors would dream to be in your shoes. Especially if you're an African person, you will know. Immigrant, you will know. I also internalized that sometimes a certain level of consciousness, or your parents' souls and their evolution in this world, in this current reality, doesn't evolve past a line. And that line is capped, you know what I'm trying to say? And then the next generation comes in and they experience certain things that your parents didn't experience. You know how when you're born and the doctor gives you a birth certificate with the time that you were born, the date, the location, the hospital name, whatever the case is? I want you to internalize the following words. Like, it's a motherfucking religion, as if it's even your own ethnicity, your skin color. I don't care. Your tribal name, your tribe itself. I don't care. I want you to internalize that you are so unique that you will never exist in this timeline ever again. And hear me out. So when you look at your families, right? When you look at your families, I always like to think about it, trees. You know, trees, there's a, I don't know what this is called, this part of a tree, a trunk. I don't know. But this part of a tree, and then there's branches on the tree, right? I want you to think of your family like there's like the original OG people that started, right? And then everyone else is just branches of that. and so on and so forth with the branches and stuff. You have to internalize that even within your family, within your siblings, even twins. I don't give a F-U-C-K. Even twins don't have the same interests, don't have the same likes and dislikes. They have different POVs, different every single thing. You'll never meet a family where everyone is identical to the T. To the T. Every single person is unique. Every single person has their own life experiences, their own emotional intelligence. That is very unique and catered to them and them only. You will never see a replica of two. God doesn't create everything in bundles. God doesn't create in twos. God creates one of one, and then it just multiplies, doing up mitosis. You know, you are different. Your beliefs, your experiences, your emotional intelligence, the way you think about your life, the way your mental attitude, the way you view life, the way you look at certain things. Even people within your family, within your siblings, can look at a situation. There's no two of two. It's always two of one. Does that make sense? I don't know what I said, but especially in the timeline that you were born in, like with me, I was born in the 2000. I was born in the year 2000. So I'm so grateful to be born in that year because God did his big one. If I was born anything before that, long day, very much long day, you know? But God knew like I had to come through in the year 2000. So I am grateful to be born in the year that I am born and also to be living in this timeline because I could have had it tough. I could have had it so much more worse. I could have been born in the silent, what is it called? The silent generation? The boomers? Oh, pack it up, long day. Long day. I would have become another statistic. I would have just called God. Maybe in the next life. I don't know. Maybe in the next life. You know? Like, I know we hear stories, especially if you're an immigrant or like just growing up as a child of how your parents had it or like how their parents lived and stuff like that and how far they got into living and what they experienced or what they didn't experience. And it just makes you realize, wow, for me to be living in this timeline, to be living so abundant and also to be the person that I am today and to have access and resources, whole time these people are done, gone, and it's like, I need to be grateful and I need to contribute to society and I need to contribute to God because if the creator created me, I need to create in return. You know what I'm trying to say? Whether big or small, I don't care. Impact is impact at the end of the day. Whether it's a small wave or a big wave, impact is impact. You have it so much more easier than the people before you. Just about less than 100 years ago, people were going through it. Your ancestors were going through it. My ancestors were going through it. You know what I'm trying to say? So, like, I can't be dumb or ignorant to the fact that I have so much resources around me and I'm choosing to still live in a consciousness or a belief system that these people were operating from 200 years ago. And like, I still think that way and I'm choosing not to live by design. I'm choosing not to do better, knowing that I know better. There's one thing about, let me tell you something for free here. There's one thing about knowing better and you still choose to play yourself small and you choose not to make yourself of use in contributing into the world or society. But there's another thing about being ignorant and knowing it the whole time. Less than 30 to 40 years ago, like if you were a black person, if you were a POC, anything that is not giving Neanderthal, you had no rights. People never respected you. Like there's a lot of things that I can speak about, but you know what I'm trying to say. So it's so important for you to understand and internalize. You have it so much more easier than your ancestors. Would have dreamed to be in your shoes, would have dreamed to have their own credit card, would have dreamed to have their own money come to them every 2 weeks, would have dreamed to live in a safe environment, to have a roof over their head, to literally go shopping without having to walk 3 hours or whatever the case is. Like, I don't know, but you have it so easily that don't forget the people that came before you. Like whenever you're like trying to go after success, when it comes to your career, when it comes to success, whatever, always think about the people that came before you because without them, you wouldn't be where you are right now. So it's so important to honor them, whether big or small. Just understand that by you attaining a level of excellence they too also attain that. That's what I believe personally. Also, one thing that a lot of people don't speak about is how a lot of children are very much traumatized and how they don't really have a good relationship, or let alone a healthy relationship with their parents, especially if they were raised and grew up in war and they had to grow up so fast. They lost their innocence when they were literally kids to let alone a teenager. You have to understand that your parents, your immigrant parents, can parent you as far as they can parent themselves, or as far as they can see themselves, or what they know is right or wrong. A lot of immigrant parents don't heal. Let's be honest. A lot of them don't become self-aware. A lot of them become stagnant. There is no evolution after certain experiences, and that is completely fine, because some souls, I personally believe, do not really evolve past their own level of consciousness or their own beliefs. And sometimes the next generation comes in and they have to do that 1 to 5% extra, or live in a way where like they have to live a bit more than how their parents were, and the cycle goes on. That is the point of evolution. That's just me though. That's just how I think and how I believe certain things. Because if you think about it, if certain people's evolutions are capped based on certain experiences, then you can't really beef them. You can't beef God and say, why is this person still in poverty? Why is this person is like this? You have to look at yourself and be like, what can I do to make the most out of myself? So in me making the most out of myself, so others can make the most out of themselves. It's like a domino effect. But not only that, but you also attain a level of success or a level of abundance that no one has acquired, or success or excellence, whatever you want to call it. And it goes from there. And how a lot of parents who grew up when they were very, very young, literally not even touching 15 years old, like, not even touching 15 years old, lost their innocence, lost their ability to be children, had to grow up fast, had to survive. And to be honest, they are still surviving. That like they didn't even have the time to probably process the last 30 years of what had happened, let alone, let's just be honest. Like an example that I can give you is, I have this neighbor friend, right? And this specific neighbor friend, she had, I believe, like 2 brothers who were like around my age. And for the longest, I was thinking like, why are they not mentally competent? Why do they constantly always beef each other? There was almost like a unspoken level of animosity, because I'm very like, I think very deep when it comes to certain things. So I was thinking for them to be like that, it's not something that they were born with. Like no child is born to hate another child. It always comes from the home. And it made me realize like maybe their father is very dysfunctional. Maybe like they went through certain things that make them very, like they have a very much power struggle when it comes to their own relationship. And it made me realize, as much as we want to understand our parents, for me to understand you is one story or one thing, but for you to be accountable about how you raised me is also another story. A lot of parents don't see past their own self, so it's like you're just talking to a wall. And there comes a level of being liberated or even free when you realize, why would you want to get an apology, or why would you want to hold someone as a grudge for how they treated you, how they raised you, how they done you dirty, how they maybe took a chunk of your life and you felt you were trapped in all of that? Why would you beef someone that can't see past themselves? Why would you beef someone that lives in survival mode? It's like you're beefing someone that can't even see past themselves. And when you put it that way, it makes so much more sense. And you almost kind of like feel bad for them, and you realize how they had it worse. And just because they had it worse, obviously you don't want to excuse it, but you have to understand everything always stems from somewhere. There is always an origin story to every single experience or every single behavior. And if the behavior is being constantly done, for example, I know all of us or certain people have bad behavior going on in their family, and a lot of people like dismiss it, don't speak about it, whether it's the woman in your family, whether it's the man. You have to speak about it. You have to address it heads on, because if you don't, that bad behavior, that notion of that cycle is going to keep going, and lo and behold, it's 3075. What's going on? Where is the evolution at? You know what I'm trying to say? And sometimes you can't save everyone. The only person you can save is literally yourself. And sometimes it really gets like that. Sometimes you want to get someone out of a predicament, out of a situation. The only way someone can truly change, like if it's an immigrant parent or whatever the case is, like those people, They can only change if they want change for themselves, and they are constantly changing as you want to help them or whoever wants to help them. But no one can truly change or want better if they don't constantly choose or do better. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like a teacher can teach you maths, teach you English, teach you science. But if you're not doing the homework, if you're not revising, if you're not doing any extra work when it comes to the back scene of doing the work that you need to do, then at the end of the day, even if you have a tutor telling you to do this day in and day out, you're not going to get far to someone who constantly is putting the reps in when it comes to learning mathematics. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's so important to understand you have to also help yourself, because people can act as guides, as mentors, as coaches, but at the end of the day, you have to put the reps in. Like, no one's going to hold your hand from the millisecond that you find them to the millisecond that you go up in the sky. It doesn't get like that. Like, I'm just being honest. You have to also volunteer and make yourself consciously accountable for yourself as much as you want someone to be accountable for you. So yeah, the last thing that is the cherry on top is you need to aspire to inspire. The reason why I say this is because like people don't understand how like just by you shining your light, doing like being your authentic self and being unapologetically yourself, you give people the conscious slip. I don't know why I said it 2 times. You give people the unconscious ability to literally live a bit, do what they actually been wanting to do, but it's like, you know, like for example, here in Australia, there is this thing called tall poppy syndrome, which I flipping hate it, keep in mind, which pretty much is like the tallest poppies get chopped off, because if they grow too tall, they need to like simmer down, like, you know what I'm trying to say? And it made me realize, like, even in the culture, the environment from like where I live and stuff, like content creators, creative people, like anyone in the creative niche, creative industry, people would like cringe at you, people would make comments and people will talk about you, all in that. But I feel like now it's becoming more normalized and now it's becoming like more cool or whatever the case is. But like, if you told me, like I'm speaking about literally 3 to 4 to 5 years ago, this shit was not cool. If people knew you on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, people would literally watch you to make fun of you. I kid you not. And you couldn't really get as far in your own city. That's why a lot of people would go to America, go to LA, go to those places, because those places understand the abundance of resources, networking, and also social media. But if you're stuck in a place where you're constantly being spoken down upon and you don't meet people who are like-minded, it is very much discouraging, you know? I feel like environment does contribute to how far or how willingly you're able to put in the reps or the work when it comes to your creative path or your creative outlet. But it's so important to understand that, like, even if you inspire the people within your family, even if you inspire the women in your family, the men in your family, your siblings, your auntie, your cousins, the people in your family, the people within your community, within your neighborhood, whoever the case, like whatever the case is, inspiration does not discriminate. Inspiration has no label. Inspiration doesn't have a title or limitation. So inspiration is inspiration at the end of the day. Bob's your uncle. I don't know what else to tell you. For example, I know all of us have been in predicaments, like for example in school or like an environment, whatever the case is. And like if like when you are your authentic self and you just speak with no judgment, without feeling like you have to act a certain way or like you have to come up a certain way, it's almost like people are attracted to you, attracted to your energy. They want to like hear more from you and stuff. And it made me realize like the art of being authentic, but also not having an agenda, like just being you. You know, I know all of us have been in predicaments where like when we cared the least, or like when we cared the least in certain conversations, people were more attracted to us. Or when we had no expectation and we were just flowing and we were just speaking and we had no like this trying to pretend to be this person, we became so natural and we exuded like a different type of mannerism, a different type of energy. And a lot of people, like, I wish this shit could be studied because it really gets like that. I'm not gonna lie, it really gets like that. And I believe that like authenticity and also love are, if not one of the highest vibrations. As long as you embody and become that every single day, you will be so surprised of how people literally look up to you.